Hey guys, in today's video, you can learn to create Stripe payment integration and verification in MERN Stack project. So this is our e-commerce project using MERN. You can integrate and verify payment in any of your MERN project, or you can also watch my video on e-commerce application using MERN. I have also provided the link of that video on my description below. I had implemented this e-commerce along with the features of home page consisting of multiple categories products. We also have authentication system built, so I will log in with the created account. I had also used context API for authentication and cart functionality, and this is our cart page. In this page you can see different products with quantity along with add and delete button, which increases and decreases the quantity of the product. These products are added here once we click on add to cart button after the authorization. Let's add this product also. Now we have this bag in cart. It also contains proceed to payment button, and the total price of our product is also listed here. That is, once we click on this proceed to payment button, we will be redirected to Stripe checkout page, and you can see the total amount of product and all the products with their price. Then we just need to include the email here. We can get the test card from Stripe documentation. So let's copy this card and we can include any 3-digit and any future date for expiry. Then after inserting name, we can just click on pay. And on success payment, you can see we are redirected to payment success page indicating payment success message. So that's all for payment integration. We have also implemented payment verification. We will require payment verification in various scenarios, such as granting users access to certain features after payment or confirming product orders. In our case, we have performed success verification to display the paid items on the purchase page. After we click on go to purchase page, you can see we have all the products that we had recently paid. The products are displayed based on the date and time of purchase in descending order. If another payment is made for new products, they will be displayed according to their respective purchase date and time, with the most recent purchases appearing first. And in cart page, we can see message indicating it's empty, and we can check our purchase in the purchase page. Upon successful payment, the products in the cart will be moved to the purchase page. Now I will quickly add some products to the cart again to demonstrate how products are displayed based on the date pattern. Then I will proceed with the payment. Let's quickly fill out the form again. The payment is successful once more. On the purchase page, we can now see different purchase times, allowing us to view the most recent products under the latest date. That's all for verifying a successful payment. With this approach, the user can easily keep track of their ordered products. We can also view the payment history in Stripe. In our Stripe dashboard, on the left side, you can see transactions. Just click on it. We had performed payment for these amounts, and the result succeeded can also be seen here. We can also click on this to view the payment details, and you can see the total amount and the products for which the payment has been made. This is the custom ID we have sent to Stripe metadata for the verification. So that's all for the flow of our Stripe payment integration and verification. Do watch my full video in order to create it. Let's get started. Continuing from our e-commerce video, we will add the proceed to payment button on the cart page. And we will also shift this subtotal part above the proceed to payment button. So this is our code base for cart page. I will cut this subtotal part from here and simply paste below the cart heading. Below this subtotal button, let me create payment button. We will also wrap this with div container, and later we can customize the CSS for this class name. Then this div will contain the payment button. Let's name this to proceed to payment. You can see we have subtotal at the top, and this is our proceed to payment button. So I will style it and place right below the subtotal. Let's go to productcard.css. Above the media query, we will include the alignment and margin for the container, and finally for the button, we will include these properties. We have styled it to dark blue, so you can see the button here. We will also reduce the gap here. For that, we need to modify in cart total class. I will just remove margin button from here. Now it's perfect. So when the user click on this button, they will redirect to Stripe payment gateway. And in our cart page, you can see we have used cart items values. We already have used console for it. So we can check in the console part. And you can see the cart items here. It contains all the products present in the cart with all the properties. We will be needing this to pass in our backend. Now let's proceed to Stripe integration. For that, let's proceed to the server folder. And inside the controllers, I will create paymentcontroller.js. Now we need to install some package in terminal. Then in server terminal, let's npm install Stripe. You can see the Stripe dependency in our package.json. Let's import Stripe, and here we will be requiring our secret key. We should include our secret key from our Stripe account. So you need to log into your Stripe account. If you haven't created the Stripe account, first you should create it. So this is our dashboard of Stripe for test mode. This is our test data. So just copy this secret key and inside the env, I will paste this to Stripe key value. So you also need to include your Stripe key from a Stripe dashboard in this way. This part would be process.env.stripe key. This will be our checkout session functionality, and it will simply redirect the user to Stripe checkout page. We can fetch the cart items from request.body. Let's proceed on creating a session object. This checkout session create is a API method in Stripe that creates a new checkout session which controls what user sees on the payment page, such as line items, the order amount and currency, and acceptable payment method. Here payment method type would be card, Now before including the items inside this method, we need to first manage our line items. So line item here is basically the products or service that a customer is purchasing during the checkout process. In our case, we can include the products present in the cart, which is our cart items. That means each product in the cart will be treated as a line item during the checkout process. Before completing the controller remaining part, let's check whether we are able to retrieve the cart items in the backend or not. For that, we should also pass the cart items from the front end. I will export this function. Before proceeding to front end, let's first complete the route part for this controller. I will quickly create the route for it also. This can be payment routes.js. Make sure you have Express installed on your backend. Let me import checkout session. Then let's create a new instance of an Express router. Finally, I will include the route of checkout session to create checkout session, and this will be the post request. Now we can proceed to index.js file. This file is basically the server start file. Now in our index.js, let's import the route and I can give path to /payment and include the payment router. Now the path for our controller will be backend port /payment /create checkout session. And also add the console for cart items in the backend. So let's again go back to our cart page in the front end. We can create a handle payment function here. And we can use axios post method. In the env file, I have already saved my backend port. I am using React bit, so I must include bit prefix here. So you should adjust based on your front end. We can simply assess using import.meta.env. If you are using create React app, you can simply use process.env. Now we can pass the cart items in our backend API. Let's also add this handle payment function on click of proceed to payment button. So now let me run both my client and server. Then I will also include the error here. Now we can click on this button and you can see we are getting axios error here. Let's go back to our code. I think we forgot to import it. Make sure you have also installed axios on the front end. I already have the axios dependency, so I can directly import here. Now if we click again, we can see our backend is also retrieving all the products in the cart. So here the missing parameter error arises because we haven't completed this method. Now let's continue with remaining part of checkout. Now for the line item, first we need to map cart items. Inside the price data, the currency can be set to USD. And for the product data, the name would be our product name, that is item.title. So this value part is from our front end. Only the left side fields are the stripe structure. And let's also include the image. For the amount it would be item.price and we need to convert to cent. So multiply by 100. Finally the quantity would be item.quantity. Now let's include the line items here. Then the mode would be payment. Let's also include success and cancel URL. We can include frontend port inside .env. My frontend port is 5173. For the success, I will include my bait frontend URL and /success. I will also be including success and cancel page in frontend later. So it will simply redirect to our success path. And cancel URL can be set to /cancel. We can also use redirect checkout in the frontend, but as you can see in the Stripe documentation, it's stating depreciated. While it still may work, it's not recommending us to use. So instead of using that, we can redirect the user to the URL on the checkout session object. As you can see in the response of this documentation too. So let's send the URL of the Stripe checkout session back to the frontend as the JSON response. This will actually be session instead of sessions. So that's all for the backend functionality for returning Stripe's session URL. Now we can complete the frontend part of returning the session URL. Let's extract the URL from response.data, which holds the checkout page URL. Then we can redirect the user to the Stripe hosted checkout page using window.location.ref. Now let's save this and make sure your project is running. We can now click on proceed to payment button. You can see nothing is updated. I guess we got some error. We can check our backend console. Nothing's wrong with the product. You can see there is error of the invalid array. Due to this we are not getting success result. Let me go back to my controller part. And yeah, I found the issue. Here item.image should be in array format. Let's save this. Now let's click this button again. You can see we are redirected to Stripe payment gateway. We can also view the product name, price and the total price along with the image of the product. We can also expand this to view all. Then we can fill the email, card number and the reason. For the card number, we can use the test card from the Stripe documentation. Let's enter the expiry date, which would simply be the future date, and CVC also. Finally, let's proceed with the pay button. And we are redirected to success URL. It's empty now because we haven't created our success page. Now we can also view this payment in Stripe. So log into your Stripe account and in the dashboard you can see the transactions. Just click on it. So this was our recent transaction. You can see the success payment amount of $182.23 here. We can also click on it to view the full details. Here we can see the purchased product image, quantity and price. We also have the cancel URL, which we will achieve if we cancel or do not perform the payment. So in the Stripe checkout, if I click on back and don't enter any details, our payment will be cancelled. So this is our cancellation URL. Now we will create our success and cancel page for the payment. On the front end, we have the folder pages. Inside this, I will create new folder payment. This folder will contain the success.jsx and cancel.jsx. This would be our success page functionality. And we will be using some icon from Materials UI. So make sure you have installed these packages, that is Emotion React, Styled, MUI Icons Material and MUI Material. We are importing box typography and button from Material UI. Box helps with layout, spacing, positioning and responsiveness. Typography is used to display text with predefined styles, and button of Material UI provides styled buttons with different variants, colors and sizes. Let's also import check circle from icons material of MUI. It is simply an icon component that represents a check mark inside a circle, often used to indicate success or completion. Inside this box, let's enable Flexbox layout. We can also center items vertically along the cross-axis, and this justify content is equals to center centers the items horizontally along the main axis. Then we will stack children vertically instead of row-wise. Now the box component will simply wrap the check circle. I will provide the color for check to green. Now let's include our payment message using typography. So this first text will basically be large text with a primary color. and this one will be smaller text with a secondary color. Giving a description, you have successfully purchased the products. Finally, let's include our button. We will also style this with border radius and padding. We can include text go to cart for this button. And in my app.jsx, we will import success page. We need to provide route path to /success. Now if we go to success page, then you can see we have checkbox and also success message indicating we successfully purchased the products. Now on clicking go to cart, we will redirect to cart. Let me create navigate to cart function here. Let's also import use navigate from React Router DOM. Let's initialize navigate. Here we will add the path to /cart. Finally, I will include this function inside the onClick. Now on clicking this button, we are redirected to cart page. Now we can also create our cancel page. For cancel page, we can just copy from here. I will simply paste this and there will also be some changes. We should include cancel instead of check circle. I will modify in the component part also. I will change this color to red. We can include here payment failed text. And this can be modified to your payment could not be processed. Please try again. So this will be our cancel page. Let me also import this in our app.jsx. Its path would be /cancel. Now if I change this to cancel, then we have the cancel page with cross symbol here indicating the payment failure. Now we have the success and cancel page. So let's check the full flow from the beginning. I will add more product and also increase the quantity for this. Now we have the new total amount. And we are again redirected to checkout, and you can see we have the 245.78 also with the new added products. Now to see cancel page, let's click on back, and you can see the cancel page is automatically rendered. Now in order to get the success payment page, we should fill this. So let's again fill with the test card. And we have the success page. And in our Stripe transactions, we also have the payment details for this amount. So that was all for the Stripe payment integration. Now we can proceed to the verification. If the payment is success, we can shift the products to the purchase sections. For verification, Stripe allows payment data to store additional structured information. This means we can add custom fields representing a particular user or transaction as needed. You can generate any custom identifier like an invoice ID, transaction ID, or order number and pass it as metadata in the Stripe session. This allows you to track payments in a way that suits your business needs. For simplicity, I am using user ID as the metadata because it's already available in my database and directly ties to the user making the payment. So back in our payment controller, after this cancel URL, we can add metadata here. And while building e-commerce application, we had already built auth middleware, which is this require auth. It simply retrieves the cookies and verifies the token. If the token is verified, we have attached the respective user to the request.user, and after this simply next middleware gets executed. So let's include this middleware before our payment controller. In our index.js, we can add the require auth similar as this in cart router to our payment router. Then in our checkout session functionality, we can fetch the attached user from the middleware. So in order to check, we can add console here. For now, I will comment out this redirection part since we are just checking the console. Then let me click this button. You can see we are getting 403 forbidden error. So let's check in the code what 403 is. So here 403 is due to unable to retrieve token from the cookies. I guess we are unable to pass the cookies from our frontend. Yeah, you can see we are using axios here, and we haven't included with credential to true here. For axios request to pass cookies, we must use this with credentials. Now if we try again, you can see we have the user ID value in our console. You can also check whether this is the actual ID for John in our MongoDB Atlas. This is our DB for John, and we have the same ID. Now let's include the retrieved user ID in the metadata. Let's uncomment this redirection. So it's working perfectly after providing metadata also. In Stripe, we can access the metadata object using the session ID. To retrieve the session ID, we need to modify our success landing page. As mentioned in the documentation, we can include the checkout session ID placeholder in our success URL as follows. Let me copy this and paste it after query parameter. Now we need to also get the session ID from the success URL path. So we can again create a new function to handle the success after the payment. Here we will be verifying the payment with the help of payment status, which can be achieved with the session ID. So first let's retrieve the session ID from the request.query. Let's check we are able to get the session ID in the console. For that we also need to create route for this function. So let's export this. Now in payment routes, let's import success payment. This will be the GET request and path can be set to /success. And we have included the success URL to success page of frontend, but now we can't include it here since we will be requiring to fetch the session ID. We can redirect to success page after we complete the verification from payment success function. So this should hold the route of payment success functionality. So this would be backend origin and it should be /payment/success. We are including /payment also since we have included in our index.js for our payment router. Now in .env also, let me include backend port value for backend origin. Now we have successfully set up new functionality in success routes as well. In case of no session ID, we can return message of session ID missing. In this try block, first we will retrieve the session details. In our Stripe documentation, we can see the method to retrieve the session object. We also have the metadata in the response. In our case, it will contain the user ID. You can see payment status. So on success response, the value of this payment status will be paid. So let's copy this and paste it here. We will replace this with our session ID. Let's also console session. Here we made a slight typo issue. It should be session underscore ID. Let's change in this. And here also. Now we need to check whether we are able to fetch the response and complete the payment part again. This keeps reloading. Since we had removed the redirection to success page, we can just check the console of response. So we have the session ID in console and also the response from session. You can see the metadata here containing our user ID and also payment status of paid. Now we can verify if payment status is paid or not with the response and can easily update the user database by fetching user's ID from the metadata. So now let's end this page. Just click on back. Let's extract our payment status and user ID. For user ID, it would be session.metadata.user_ID and payment status would be session.payment_status. We can remove this console now. I will remove all of the above console too. I will shift this above. And below this we can check for success payment. So if payment status is paid, we are gonna fetch ID of that user. In case of not paid, we can give payment failed message. We have the user ID now and we need to match with the user in our database. Let's import our user schema. We can use find by ID method here. In case of no user, we can send user not found message. On successful payment, we will shift the products from cart to the new page. So for that, let's modify our user schema. I will add field for purchase here. I can copy of cart. This will be purchases. And here I will also add purchased at field, which will hold a date. We are including this since we will also be displaying purchased products based on date. Now let's proceed on shifting product from cart. We can use map method here. The spread operator copies all properties from item into a new object. To append new purchases to the existing purchases, we use the concat method. Then we clear the cart and finally save the changes to the database. Now we can include the success redirection page, and this will run after the payment is success. Inside the catch block, include the error message. So that's all for retrieving session ID from the success URL and fetching the session response. Then on success payment, cards products are sent to the purchase section. Now let's proceed on creating new functionality for fetching the purchase product, as we are also gonna render purchase product on the new page. For that, let's first extract the user ID. From the retrieved user ID, we can fetch the user from our database. And also check user is present or not. Let's replace this send with JSON, as this is more structured compared to send. JSON ensures proper response formatting. I think I have included send for all responses here, and we can change this to message. Similarly, I will change for this above part also. And finally change for the session ID. Now let's continue with our fetch purchase. We need to get the purchases from the user.purchases. Finally, we can return the purchases from the user. Let me modify this to 500 and also the text here. Then include the route for this. This is get request with path/purchases. Now on the client side, inside this container, let's create purchase product folder. This will contain purchase product.jsx. We can also directly create purchase product.jsx inside this container, but we are doing in this way to match the structure with other components. Let's now create state for purchase product. Initially loading will be true, and let's also include for error. Now inside the use effect, we will be calling the fetch purchase API. Let's import axios. Will be axios get request. The route is /payment/purchases. Then we can update the data to purchase product. After this, the loading should also be false. Now let's update the error also. Then let's call the fetch purchased items function. The empty dependency array ensures the effect runs only once on mount. First, let's verify response in the console. In case of loading, we can provide loading your purchases message. Similarly, we will also return error message. And if there is no any purchased item, we can provide message of no purchase yet, start shopping. Now in our app.jsx, let's include the purchase product page. And its path will simply be /purchases. Include set loading to false in catch block. Now if we go to our purchase, we have the purchase failed message. Again we have 403 error. Just include with credential to true here. Now there is no error. This message is due to no any products inside the purchase. Let's complete the remaining part of this page. We are gonna use map method. We can display product image, title, price and quantity. The product will be wrapped by the container. Here the title attribute adds a tooltip that appears when the user hovers over the element. Now let's include the price for the product. Then finally the quantity. We will display this message in the center. For that I can style it using Tailwind CSS classes for Flexbox. I will include this for error also. But for error, I will make the text color to red. Include this part in no product case also. I will also style start shopping in new line. For that I can use BR tag. Let's shift this little above. For that I can add translate Y20 here. Let's include for error and length part also. Now it's in center part. Now for the class name of these products, we can create purchaseproduct.css. Let's import that in our JSX file also. I will be including all the CSS for the given class name. You can just copy it. I am arranging the products horizontally. And if there are fewer products, they will start from the center. I am also gonna perform some hover effect. When a user hovers over an element, it will slightly enlarge. This @media is for the responsiveness. So that was all for the CSS. Now let's use different products in the cart. We have the new total price. So nothing's wrong with multiple quantity also. Now let's fill this again. And finally click on pay. Let's move to purchase page. It's still blank. Let me inspect this. You can see we have the products in the console. These are all the products shifted from cart after successful payment. But regarding the render problem, let's go back to code. Yeah, here is the issue. We have included curly braces after map. It should be small bracket instead. This should also be small. And remove this semicolon also. Now save this, and you can see we have the products now with the horizontal arrangement. The products are wrapped with container and slightly zooms on hover. We can also view the full title of product with hover. Now our cart is empty as the products are on purchase section. This is a result of success purchase, but if we cancel the payment, no any product will be shifted to purchase page. We can also verify that. First, let me add product in cart. Let me again click on this button and I will just click on back for cancel. So our payment is cancelled with redirection to cancel page. If we proceed to purchases, no any product is updated to purchase page. And we still have the product now in the cart page. So the flow is perfect. And we will also center this cart message. For that I can just copy the class name of purchase product and paste it here. I will also add message to visit purchase page to see the products. We can also notify them to add product to cart. Then add flex column in the class name. So we have centered this message, but we have faced a slight issue here. You can see the navbar items are not clickable. It's because of translate Y here. Using translate Y20 moves the element visually up but does not change its actual position in the DOM. If it overlaps another element, that element may block clicks. To fix this, instead of translate Y, we can use PV20. Now it's fixed. Let's change for purchase part also. Now we can proceed to adding purchases in the navbar. In navbar, we can place it after cart. We can use nav link to redirect to purchase. Same class name can be used as of cart. Now we have the purchases in navbar too. Let's work on date part. We will render these products based on date. It helps us to know the exact date of when the purchases was done. In our backend payment controller, we will slightly modify the fetch purchase part. Let's create an empty object for purchase by date. We can then fetch the date from user.purchases stored in the database by looping on it. We will also convert to local date. If the date key doesn't exist, it initializes an empty array. Then we can add purchases to the respective date as array. Actually, this should be purchase instead of product, since we have used purchase inside this for the date. I will explain you how this works. Suppose if the user.purchases as today's date, initially purchase by date has no any key date stored, so it will simply create empty array, and inside this date the respective purchase data will be stored. And if the next product purchase date is also the same to today's date, then now as this date is present, this line will be skipped and the next purchase will also be pushed inside this same key date. In case of new date again, the same approach will be done from making initially empty array. Now let's sort the date in descending order. The products purchased at latest date should be at the top. Then we will return this purchase by date and sorted dates. Now in the client side also, we need slight modification. Let's create the state for sorted date also. Use curly braces for purchase product because purchase product is expected to be an object. For sorted dates, it will simply be empty array. Now this will hold the data in purchase by date and also update the sorted dates. We can include the heading here like that of cart page. So I will just copy this and this will be your purchase. I will copy the CSS of this cart heading. This would be purchase. Now we should use map method for the sorted dates. We can then assign date to key. Here include the date value. Since our product will be rendered based on the sorted dates, we can include this products mapping part inside this div. In this purchase product, we should also add date array. And here again, we included curly braces. It should be small bracket. Remove this semicolon also. I will shift this title below the key and remove this class name from key also. Now purchase product is used as object. So to compare the length, it should be object.keys purchase product here. Let's also complete CSS for edit class name. This is for the purchase date. And this would be for the list. Now you can see we have got the date, and below this date we have the products purchased in this date. And here we can also include complete date including the time. Currently it's including the date only format without time. For that, in our backend payment controller, we can modify this local date string. Just remove date from here, and inside this include this ENUS. Now we can see we have also the time. And in our purchase product.jsx, this year purchase shouldn't be inside this map method because it will be displayed for every new date displayed. Shift this above it. Now the CSS is slightly displaced. In our CSS, remove the flex wrap and justify content from the purchase container. Instead, add flex direction to column and align items to center. And I will modify this padding to 40 px. Now it's perfect. Now if we again purchase new product, the time will differ and we can see the products with the respective date. So let's again go to our home page and include some products in the cart. So let's purchase these two products. We will also change this navigation. After success payment, we will provide redirection to purchases. So on success.jsx, this will be /purchases and button will be go to purchases. Now you can see the two products are added with the detailed purchase date. So the products purchased at the latest date is displayed at the top. We can also store the payment status of the user by adding an invoice field in our database schema. However, we can check the status directly here in Stripe transaction. So it's not always necessary. Now if I click on this payment, in the event log, I can see the full response of this transaction. You can also notice that even though we included user ID in metadata while creating the session and fetched it from the session response, the metadata appears empty here. This happens because metadata is only included in the Stripe logs when it is attached to the payment intent. So if we want metadata to appear in Stripe's event logs, we need to make a slight update by passing it into the payment intent as well. So in my payment controller.js, I will include the payment intent below the metadata. And finally, let's include this metadata part inside this payment intent. Now it should also store in Stripe metadata. Let's perform payment for the final time. So I will just add different products to cart. Let's purchase of this amount. Then I will fill it quick. We also have the success response, and the products are also perfectly updated for the new date. Now let's verify our metadata. Now I'll click on this payment detail. On this right side also, you can see the user ID being stored in the metadata field. And if we go to our event log, you can also see the metadata, the user ID being stored here. Using payment intent helps to store the metadata in Stripe's information as well. So that was all for the Stripe payment integration and verification. You can also get the source code of complete e-commerce project with Stripe payment from my GitHub. I have also provided the link of the source code in my description below. In this video, we successfully created Stripe payment integration and verification in MERN project. Thank you guys for watching this video.